Guys, Pathfinder spells are so cool. They're so dynamic. They're so interesting. Some of them are really funny. Some of them are really cool. They give you so many options and ways to interact with the game. There's also like a bajillion of them. After playing Pathfinder 2e for like over a year now, and also making that dungeon delve recently, and also trying to get more into Pathfinder lately, I am fully confident to say that Pathfinder spells are infinitely better than D&D spells. D&D has nothing on Pathfinder when it comes to the magic and the spells. And that's what I want to talk about today. Look, I'm not an expert Pathfinder player. I'm not a master of the system. I just want to talk about some comparisons between D&D and Pathfinder spells, and then show you guys like some of my favorites because God, they're so cool. Look, I'm mastering the ability to piss off both D&D and Pathfinder communities. Oh, I wish there was a system that did all the homebrew things I want to do in it all the time. Oh man, I wish D&D could be just a little different in the ways that I want to do it. No, is it not working? Okay, I think the rogue in Pathfinder is really bad. Anyways, I want to talk about some Pathfinder spells. I love them. They're so cool. But before we do that, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor. This video is sponsored by FlexiSpot. They were so kind enough to send me their E7 Plus 4-legged standing desk. Wow. And this thing is sturdy, dude. I honestly love it. Check this out. I set it to a preset, so it's at my height, but this thing gets really tall. I've been really looking for a standing desk for a long time, and I really love FlexiSpot because they allow you to customize it. I was able to pretty much find the exact same size and make that my desk was, because beforehand I was using good old IKEA slab on 2 drawers, but I always wanted to have the ability to stand like this, and now I can, and it's super awesome. It has 540 pounds of static capacity. And on the side of it, it has this keypad with a USB charger on it. And yeah, this thing is kind of a big purchase. And if you're somebody that's a little bit nervous about it, or you just want to try it out, you get a 15-year warranty with the entire thing and a 30-day risk-free return. But I don't know, you might just like it. Y'all, I gotta be honest, I'm really excited to start doing more of my desk tasks while being able to walk, because FlexiSpot sent me this cool little treadmill that goes right under the desk. I can start burning calories while I'm playing D&D. Don't miss the chance to get yourself one of the E7 Plus 4-legged standing desks. If you click the link down below or use my code at checkout, you get yourself $50 off. So click the link below and experience the ultimate in stability and performance. Roll a dexterity saving throw. All right, let's get into this. I'm gonna whip out Archives of Nethys here, because if you think I can navigate that book, no, I can't. Man, do you know what's also cool about Pathfinder is they have an entire online archive of everything, and you don't have to pay for it. It's free. That's pretty cool. Okay, first off, I want to do some comparisons to really just show the difference between Pathfinder and D&D spells. The first one I have here is Scorching Ray. You get 3 rays that you blast at a target. You roll an attack for each one, and for each one that hits, you deal 2d6 fire damage. Pretty simple. But may I introduce Pathfinder's Blazing Bolt? For those of you who don't know, Pathfinder 2e doesn't have action, bonus action, movement. In Pathfinder, you get 3 general actions, and everything in the game costs 1, 2, or 3 actions. So you can mix and match what you can do on your turn. You can do 3 attacks, you do 3 moves, you could do 1 attack and 2 moves, or you can do 1 attack, 1 move, and a cool secret 3rd option. It makes things so much simpler, but it also really opens up the possibilities of what you can do on your turn, especially when it comes to spells. See, spells vary from being 1, 2, or 3 actions. So in D&D, Scorching Ray is an action, and in Pathfinder, it's the same thing, except it's 1, 2, or 3 actions. So you could spend your whole turn casting Scorching Ray, or you could spend half of your turn casting it, or you could just go bah and get out of there. And it works exactly like you're thinking. Every action is a bolt that you can fire from it. Now you might be thinking, wow, that's way less powerful than the D&D version, because they both do the exact same amount of damage, even for a critical hit. Yes, but also keep in mind that Pathfinder turns are a little bit smaller than a D&D turn. After playing Pathfinder for a while now, I can confidently say that you can do way more in a D&D turn than you can in a Pathfinder turn. And I really like that, to be honest. Pathfinder has made me realize that on a D&D turn, everybody gets to just like move all over the map without anybody doing anything about it. It doesn't feel as much as like a 6-second round than it does in Pathfinder. Your party will also be way more efficient in Pathfinder if you work together with your actions more often. There are ways to give people weaknesses or even make it easier to hit, and blah, blah, blah. There's a bunch of little intricacies about Pathfinder as to why 3 actions isn't going to feel as big as like a full turn in D&D, but it's designed that way. But I will mention that Blazing Bolt is still better than Scorching Ray, because if you spend more than 2 actions to cast the spell, the damage increases to 4d6. So theoretically, if you spend your entire turn casting Blazing Bolt, you could do upwards to 6d6 damage to 3 different targets. You do have to target different creatures in order to cast the spell. But I like that a little more. From a GM perspective, I like that the player is forced to kind of choose different targets for their attack. This is a spell that isn't meant to just melt a big bad guy. This is a spell meant to do some crowd control, because there are other spells in Pathfinder that can do like big damage in one hit. And it's cool that you as a player would have to choose between that spell or taking Blazing Bolt, because they're both not just going to do the exact same thing, except one has a little bit more risk because you have to roll a bunch. There's actually a reason why you're firing 3 different rays. But let's move on to something a little bit more utility, like grease. In D&D, and I don't know if I said this going forward, but I'm using the 2024 rules. Why is there such a thing about how the video is not about 2024? God. I want to talk about 2024 because I think in D&D, grease is a first level spell where it non-flammable grease covers the ground in a 10-foot square, and that's difficult terrain now. And then when it appears, each creature standing in the area must succeed a dex save or fall prone. And then if they also entered that area or end their turn there, they can also potentially fall prone. In Pathfinder, it is also a first level. It's a spell 1, first level, same thing. It's 2 actions. The range is 30 feet, and it's an area of 4 contiguous 5-foot squares, which just means all 5-foot squares have to touch each other. And then same thing as D&D. In Pathfinder, each creature standing on the greasy surface must succeed a reflex save or an acrobatics check against their spell save DC or fall prone. Creatures using an action to move onto the greasy surface during the spell's duration must attempt either a reflex save or an acrobatics check to balance. A creature that steps or crawls doesn't have to attempt a check or save. I like that little clarification at the end because it gives a way for other creatures to not fall into the grease. If you realistically get on all 4s and start to crawl, it's a way to avoid it. That's a cool option on your turn. A lot of people think that Pathfinder is very hard for newer players because there's so many rules, but I argue the contrary because that statement specifically makes it easier for a new player to know what to do on their turn if there was a grease right in front of them. Or it would also help a GM know what to do about a villain or a player who wanted to know what to do about grease being in their way. I just wish they would do that with off balance for rogue. But Pathfinder grease has a little fun little additional thing you can do with it. Instead of targeting the 4 squares, you can choose an object of 1 bulk or less, which is like most small objects. Anyone trying to pick up the object must succeed at an acrobatics check or a reflex save against your spell DC to do so. If you target an intended object, the creature that has the object must attempt an acrobatics check or reflex save. On a failure, they take a -2 circumstance penalty to all checks to involved using that object. And on a critical failure, they basically drop it. You can also cast it on a worn object, meaning that the wearer gains +2 circumstance bonus to fortitude saves against attempts to grapple them. You could cast it on your friend as they're being grappled to make them slipperier so they can get out of the grapple, or on yourself. That is so awesome. Now, you might be thinking, hey, Jacob, in D&D, you can basically do all those same things too. It's just a DM by DM basis. Yeah, you're right. That's the argument that makes 5e the greatest role-playing game in the whole world ever, forever. Haha, I win, signed Wizards of the Coast. But I really like the way Pathfinder writes it out, because me, a dumb person, wouldn't necessarily think to ever do this. And I love that they give you the option and they give you rules for it, because some GMs don't always want to run a spell that way. Sometimes you get a little bit of a stickler GM who's like, no, you can't, no, that's how grease works, you can't do anything else with it. Now in Pathfinder, you're like, no, I cast on myself, I'm harder to grapple. I love that. I think that's really fun. Next up, I have Jump. And I think the 2024 version of Jump is really good but not as good as Pathfinder. Jump in D&D is a first level spell. It's a bonus action. It lasts a minute. You touch a willing creature once on each of its turns until the spell ends. That creature can jump up to 30 feet by spending 10 feet of movement. And if you upcast it, you can target an additional creature. I really like the way that they updated this one. It makes a lot more sense. You have to actually spend your movement in order to jump like that. You can get some crazy distances by doing this. And you can, it makes it so much easier. You just spend 10 feet of your movement and then you can jump 30 feet and you can only do it once on your turn. Great job. In Pathfinder 2e, it is a first level spell. It's one action. Your legs surge with strength, ready to leap high and far. You jump 30 feet in any direction without touching the ground. You must land on a space of solid ground within 30 feet of you, or else you fall after using your next action. Which is really funny. And then if you upcast it, if you heighten it to third, the range becomes touch, the target changes to one touched creature, and the duration lasts a minute, allowing the target to jump as described whenever it takes the leap action, which is similar to the D&D one, except way better. You can jump a lot more. So I like the Pathfinder one a little bit more, purely because of the action system. D&D has to bend over backwards to get this jump spell to make sense and work. And it does. It is a little confusing. You have to be like, wait, so I spend 10 feet. So can I go 90 feet? No, you can only do it once per turn. Okay, so once per turn, I can spend 10 feet of my movement to go 30 feet. But in Pathfinder, you cast jump, and that action lets you jump. It's already a part of the spell. You could do that in D&D, actually. You could just make it a bonus action jump. There you go. You leap. You go. And to be fair, the D&D one does last a lot longer, making it a lot better of a spell. But I love the simplicity of the Pathfinder one a little bit more. That feels way easier to figure out. It's just like, oh, as a part of the I just jump. And then if you upcast it, you basically get the exact same version. So another thing I love about Pathfinder spells is how you can upcast so many of them. Now, you can in D&D too. You can upcast most damaging spells in D&D. And sometimes Wizards of the Coast gives you a little treat and lets you upcast a spell that makes the area a little bigger. Ooh, oh, thank you. Thank you, Wizards. Meanwhile, Giga Chad Paizo is like, you can upcast almost every spell. The ones you can't upcast are the ones that are just like a single line of text. The way I see it is, it looks like Paizo writers were looking at their spells and they were like, does it make sense that you can upcast this? Yes. So then they wrote a way that it can be upcasted. In D&D, sometimes it feels like, oh, it would be really cool if I could upcast this and it would do this instead. No, that's just not in the rules. You have to be like a really cool DM who allows that as homebrew and hope that it doesn't break your entire game. For example, a spell that you can upcast in Pathfinder is Mystic Armor, which is basically like Mage Armor. It's first level, 2 actions. It lasts a whole day. You ward yourself with shimmering magical energy. You gain a +1 item bonus to AC and a maximum dex modifier of +5. While wearing Mystic Armor, you use your unarmored proficiency to calculate your AC. Well, that's infinitely worse than Mage Armor, isn't it? Only a +1 to your AC? First of all, armor class is calculated way differently in Pathfinder. They're insanely large. Because even as like a wizard at like 5th level, your AC might be like 20 or even above that. I'm playing a Magus in Eberron, City of Towers. Go check it out, Arcane Arcade. And I'm basically playing like the fighter wizard, and my AC is like 26. It's ridiculous. I think it just hit 27. So having a 28, I'd be like, whoo, I've got the biggest AC in the party now. And I get to add my maximum dex modifier +5. But here's the kicker. You can upcast this one. It's called Heightened in Pathfinder. So Heightened at 4th, you get an additional +1 to your saving throws. It doesn't increase your AC. Instead, your saving throws increase. That's really fun. And then at 6th, the AC increases +2, and you get the +1 to saving throws. At 8, you get the +2 to saving throws. And then at 10th, because there's 10th level spells in Pathfinder, it's +3 and +3. That's really fun and really cool. Another one that I love that you can upcast in Pathfinder is Enlarge. So in D&D, you can cast Enlarge, 2nd level spell, concentration for a minute. Did I tell you that concentration is not nearly as a detriment in Pathfinder? Anyways, I love Enlarge Reduce. This is one of my favorite spells. You make something big, you make something small. And when you get large, you have advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws, and you deal more damage with your unarmed strikes. And if you're small, it does the opposite, which makes no sense, but okay. Yeah, my human just became a halfling, and now their unarmed strikes are worse than our party's halfling. I know you're going to say, he didn't become a halfling, he became physically smaller, his mass got smaller, it makes more sense. Shut up. In Pathfinder, Enlarge is 2 actions, level 2, One creature within 30 feet lasts for 5 minutes, non-concentration. Bolstered by magical power, the target grows to size large. Its equipment grows with it, but returns to its natural size if removed. The creature is clumsy 1. Clumsy just means you get a status penalty to your dexterity-based checks, DCs, AC, reflex, ranged attack rolls, and anything involving acrobatic, stealth, and thievery by 1, which is just a -1 to all of those things, which makes sense. You got bigger. You can't pickpocket or pick locks or dodge as well as you did. You're big now. Your reach increases by 5 feet or 10 feet if you started out to be tiny. You gain a +2 status bonus to melee damage. So much easier than being like, oh no, you only get the bonus if you do unarmed strikes. Well, wouldn't my Warhammer also grow with me? Yeah, but this is, hi, I'm Mr. Wizard of the Coast, and I don't know how to calculate that. That would break the entire game. Giga Chad Paizo, +2 to damage. The spell has no effect on larger creatures. And do you know what you can do with this spell is you can upcast it! Heightened at 4th, they grow to huge. You get +4 to melee damage. Your reach increases by 10 feet. And you can do it at 6th. Choose either the 2nd rank or the 4th rank version of the spell and apply its effects up to 10 willing creatures. Me and the boys showing up for the fight and we all become huge. Just an army of fucking 10 dudes that are enormous rolling up to the battle. They're all a little clumsy, but they do so much damage. It's so good! Pathfinder saving throws are also better than D&D. In D&D, if you got a saving throw, it's going to be one of a couple of things. If it's a spell that requires a saving throw and you succeed, it's either going to do absolutely nothing, or it's going to do half damage. And also absolutely nothing, but the half damage. Not in Pathfinder. Granted, Pathfinder does have basic saves. A basic save is just like a D&D one where if you succeed, you take half damage, and if you fail, then you take the full effects. But many of the spells have different outcomes based on how well you succeed. That sounds a little complicated. It's not. It's just critical success, failure, critical failure. A critical success is if you roll a natural 20 or if you get 10 above the DC. And a critical failure is the same, natural 1 or 10 below the DC. And there are a lot of really cool ways that this works in Pathfinder. I didn't find like all of them. I just found 2 that are like pretty good comparable to D&D to give you an idea of how it works. Trust me, the comments are going to be absolutely full of spells that are like, you should see what happens when you critically fail this spell, because it's ridiculous. But one I want to compare to is Laughing Fit. You know, Tasha's Hideous Laughter. In D&D, you fail the save, you're laughing. Save on at the end of every turn, you get to save, and then you can have your turn back. Love that. Thank you, game. I love when you take away my entire turn. In Pathfinder, it's a 2nd level spell, 2 actions, 30 feet, 1 living creature, which is interesting. You can't cast this on an undead or like a construct. That makes it so much easier. Don't have to go to constructs and be like, this guy is immune to this and this and this and this. It's just that the spell specifies. God, Pathfinder good. The target is overtaken with uncontrollable laughter. It must attempt a will save, which is a wisdom save, not a will Baldur's Gate 3 save. If you ever fail a will save in Pathfinder 2e, you are legally obligated to look at your entire table and say, more like won't save. So if you fail Laughing Fit, you become slowed 1 and you can't use reactions. Slowed 1 just means you lose an action equal to the amount of slowed that you are. So you lose an action on your turn, which is devastating. But as you guys know, the one rule that grinds my gears in D&D, I really hate taking away player turns all the time. I don't like it. I don't like taking away DM can lose turns, I guess. It's not fun. It's not fun to play a game where you can't do what you want to do. Can't make actions, can't make choices. And yes, I'm not saying Pathfinder deleted stunned. I just like that this 2nd level spell that makes people laugh doesn't just take away your entire turn if you fail. Instead, you lose an action. You're a little slower because you're laughing on your turn. That's fun to roleplay. If you succeed, you are plagued with uncontrollable laughter and you can't use reactions. That's pretty cool. The spell still does something. Most of the time with these varying successes in Pathfinder, the only way to get like no effect is if the target critically succeeds, which I love. Even if the target succeeds, they still can't use their reactions. That's really nice. That still feels good to cast the spell. On a critical failure, however, the target falls prone, can't use their actions or reactions for 1 round, and then takes the effects of a failure. Did I just talk about how I don't like taking away turns. Yeah, but it's a critical failure. I don't know. It's a little more worth it to me in that opinion. That feels earned. I think that's probably my issue with stun and all of that stuff. I want it to feel more earned. It's a huge detriment to take away an entire turn. I also like that it like slowly degrades. Like on your first turn, you're falling prone. You can't do anything. You're just laughing. And then on your next turn, you're still laughing a little bit. You're still slow to one. You're like, okay, I'm good. And then you're fine. That's so funny. Another one I really like is Sleep, the big honk shoe. In Pathfinder, it's a first level spell. It's 2 actions. It's 30 feet. It's a 5-foot burst. 5-foot burst is just a 5-foot radius. Each creature in the area becomes drowsy, possibly nodding off. A creature that falls unconscious from this spell doesn't fall prone or release what it's holding. The spell doesn't prevent creatures from waking up due to a successful perception check, limiting its utility in combat. Let me explain that. Basically, if a creature is asleep in Pathfinder, they can make a perception check to wake up. The spell is basically specifying that they can still do that. Limiting its utility in combat, I think, means limiting the spell's utility in combat. So if there's like a big war going on, you can't just be like, oh, good night. So on a failure, the creature falls unconscious. If it's still unconscious for 1 minute, it wakes up automatically. It's a will save, which is wisdom. On a success, the creature takes a -1 status penalty to perception checks for 1 round. On a critical success, they're unaffected. And on a critical failure, the creature falls unconscious for an hour. And then you can also heighten it to 4th level. The creatures fall unconscious for 1 round on a failure or 1 minute on a critical failure. They fall prone and release what they're holding, and they can't attempt perception checks to wake up. When the duration ends, the creature is sleeping normally instead of automatically waking up. So there's a lot going on with this spell. I think that this spell creates a lot more utility within Pathfinder than it does in D&D. So in D&D, I believe the 2024 version, it just puts creatures to sleep if they fail a check, basically letting you get a critical hit, which is pretty cool, I guess. And you can kind of do the same thing in Pathfinder, but I like the idea of what you could use this spell for in Pathfinder a little bit more. This becomes a far more useful spell if you're casting it before combat happens, or you cast it on a creature that's trying to look for you. It's a pretty good defensive spell in that sense. But honestly, I just love the 4th level heightened version. You just fully put them to bed. They don't wake up, they drop what they're holding, and they don't, that's so funny. Okay, now I want to go over just some of my favorite spells. These are just spells that I have casted in the game or seen happen in a game or have looked at and went, wow, that is so awesome. First, we got Blazing Dive. This is technically legacy content from Secrets of Magic. So it's 2 actions. It's a 3rd level spell. Superheated air collects under you, buoying you high into the sky before you plummet back down in a fiery comet. You fly 15 feet straight up into the air, then fly in a straight line to an empty space of your choice on the ground within 60 feet. When you land, the blistering air blasts out from you, dealing 3d4 bludgeoning damage and 3d6 fire damage. Basic reflex save. So half damage on a success and no damage on a critical success, and then full damage on a failure and double damage on a critical failure to all creatures within a 10-foot emanation. And then you can heighten it, and every time you heighten it, it deals an extra 1d4 bludgeoning and 1d6 fire. My leg fell asleep. This spell is so cool. The visual of casting this is just so awesome. You rise up into the air and blast into the ground doing a bunch of damage. I don't even really know if it needs to do that. I think it would be cool to be able to cast this to like fly 15 feet to like get to a 2nd level. Like that's pretty neat. You could like land on a roof or something. I think just in general, I just love the way that the spell reads. It's so cool. Another spell I love is Quick Sort. This is also from Secrets of Magic. Maybe all of the ones I like are from Secrets of Magic. This one's 3 actions. It's a 1st level spell. The range is 10 feet and it targets up to 200 unattended objects in range, each of light bulk or less. You magically sort a group of objects into neat stacks or piles. You can sort the objects in 2 different ways. The first option is to separate them into different piles depending on an easily observed factor, such as color or shape. Alternatively, you can sort the objects into ordered stacks depending on a clearly indicated notation, such as page number, title, or date. The objects sort themselves throughout the duration, though it takes less time per object to sort a smaller number of objects, down to a single round for 30 or fewer objects. And then you can heighten it at 3rd to make it 400 objects, or heighten it at 5th to make it 800 objects. That's so fun. It's a little 1st level spell that is just a cool way to be like, hang on, just give me a second. and you just organize everything. Open a treasure chest. It's all of these gold pieces and platinum pieces or whatever. And you're just like, all right, and you could sort all of them. You go to an ancient necromancer's laboratory. His notes are scattered all over the place. Just give me a minute. I'll just sort all of it really quickly. What do you want? Page number, date, color. It's so cool. That's a fun thing as a player to like whip out and be like, oh, don't worry, I got this. That's so much fun. There's also another spell called Approximate, which if I'm remembering correctly, will approximate the number of something in a container or in an area. So you look into a treasure chest and you're like, well, there's probably 300. I don't know how much gold could be in here, but I can cast Approximate to find out. Or how many ball bearings are in a jar, or how many arrows are in a quiver. Another one of my favorites is Iron Gut. I have terrorized my fellow players with this spell in our Eberron campaign. It's a second level spell. It's 2 actions. It lasts an hour. Your mouth, esophagus, and stomach become incredibly elastic and tougher than metal. For the duration of the spell, you can reach down into your throat to store or retrieve a single object of light or negligible bulk in your stomach, as though your stomach were a backpack or other container. Storing and retrieving an item in this way requires an interact action. The object must be small enough to reasonably fit within your stomach. It is very difficult for other creatures to notice that you are hiding an object in this way. Passive observers can't possibly notice, and you gain a +4 circumstance bonus to your stealth checks to conceal the object, unless the searcher specifically searches your mouth and stomach. If at the end of the spell's duration, you still have an object stored in your stomach, it is violently expelled, dealing 1d6 damage to you, and you can heighten it to 3rd to increase it to 8 hours. This is so funny! There's so many ways in a D&D game where you could hide an object of something like that, but only Pathfinder has the balls to be like, what if you ate it? What if you shoved it into your stomach and we made a spell that did that? I used this one time as a Xeraphis in our Eberron game to sneak his arcane firearm into a casino. Everybody else was like, okay, I'm gonna hide like a dagger on me. I'm gonna put mine in a extra dimensional space. And the Xeraphis was like, well, and then I got to dramatically reveal it later when I was interrogating somebody. I was like, we were sneaking around and we were doing this heist, and then there was this old guy, and I walked up to him and I was like, I pulled the gun out on him. Oh, this spell's awesome. Nightmare, nightmare, nightmare. This is a 4th level spell. Takes 10 minutes to cast. You target a creature you know by name. You don't have to even see them. You just have to know a creature by name. You send disturbing nightmares to your target. The next time the target falls asleep, it must attempt a will save. If you know the target only by name and have never met them, they get a +4 circumstance bonus to the will save. On a failure, the target has nightmares and awakens fatigued, which is a -1 status penalty to AC and saving throws, and you can't use exploration activities while you're traveling, and then you recover from it when you, after a full night's rest. On a success, the target has nightmares, but has no adverse effects other than the unpleasant memories. On a critical success, the target is unaffected and immune for a week. Get out of my head. On a critical failure, the target has the nightmares, awakens fatigued, and is drained too until no longer fatigued. You take a status penalty equal to your drain value to constitution checks, fortitude saves, and your hit points reduce by an amount as well. This is so funny. The thought of casting this, maybe not on the big bad evil guy, but like on like his lieutenant or something, or just some guy, to be like, you know what? That guy's gonna have horrible nightmares, and it may not give us any kind of bonus, but it will be really funny. But then this can also be really cool. You know you're about to fight somebody, and it's the night before, so you cast this spell, and you know, your party's like, hey, what are you doing? I'm giving the guy we're about to fight tomorrow horrible nightmares about what's going to happen tomorrow. And then that person is fatigued and has negatives. And even if they succeed and you don't get anything out of it, it's still a cool roleplay thing to do. It's just really fun. I love this. Dismantle. This is a 2nd level spell. It's 2 actions. It's a minute. You touch an object and it immediately dissembles into its component pieces. The spell fails if the target lacks component pieces, such as a statue carved from a block of stone, or using it on a dangerous object like a snare or trap, which will typically trigger it. The object gains the broken condition, and which broken just means Jesus Christ, it just doesn't work. And the component pieces become small enough to be hidden under normal clothing and armor. You can dismiss the spell. When it ends, it reassembles into its original form, appearing in your hand or hands if you have them free, or on the ground in front of you otherwise. Once reassembled, the object loses the broken condition, and its hit points return to the value the object had when you cast the spell. It only lasts a minute, but if you heighten it to 4th, it's 10 minutes, and if you heighten it to 6th, it's until the next day. Do I need to explain this one? There's so many fun ways you could use this. Could you imagine going to an enemy in combat and grabbing their crossbow and being like, it's like the boss at MGS3. This is so cool. You just walk up and just dismantle things. There's a button on a door that opens the door. Nope, not anymore. Or there's a lock on a door. And you just go, you just dismantle it. God. Blast back. This is a 3rd level spell. It's a reaction and it triggers when you fall more than 10 feet and it's a 20-foot emanation. You hit the ground with a shuddering boom, propelling the force of your fall out in a wave. You take no damage from the fall as the displaced air allows you to land gently, but all other creatures in the spell's area take 6d4 bludgeoning damage. Creatures that fail their saves are also pushed back 10 feet, and you can heighten it, and every 2 levels you heighten it, the emanation increases by 10 feet and the damage increases by 1d4. This is badass Featherfall. I used this also in Eberron City of Towers. While we were doing a heist, it was not very smart. I wanted to jump from a tower in the City of Towers and land on the place that we were supposed to heist, but I didn't have, this was the only spell I had that could like stop me from taking damage. So it did alert the guards a little bit, but it was pretty funny. But regardless, this is such a cool thing to do in combat. It doesn't require any actions. All you have to do is just be like, all right, and now I'm going to fall, and now I'm going to boom when I hit the ground. I don't know. It's so awesome. And the last one I have here is Flens. This one's also Legacy. It's from Ghost King's Rage. It's a level 1 spell. It's 2 actions. Targets a creature or a corpse. With a touch, you strip off the flesh, muscle, and internal organs off your target, leaving only bare bones. Yep. Yeah, I know we can cast it on a corpse, but you can also cast it on a guy who is still using those. The effect depends on whether the target is a living creature, undead creature, or inanimate corpse. A creature or corpse that lacks flesh, muscle, or internal organs is immune to the spell. Aw, you can't Flens a skeleton. So for an inanimate corpse, all of its flesh, muscle, and viscera and organs are stripped from the corpse and they vanish, leaving only bare bones behind. On a living creature, you make an attack roll, and on a hit, they take 2d6 slashing damage. And on a critical hit, you double the damage and they take a 1d4 persistent bleeding damage, meaning they take that damage every round. On an undead creature, it's the exact same thing, except they become enfeebled instead of bleeding. And this spell does my favorite thing, which specifies if this spell's damage kills the target, the corpse is only bones. You just turn a guy inside out. You just take his skin off. There's a spell in Pathfinder that takes your skin off. Anyways, Pathfinder's awesome. I love it. The spells are so cool. I am scratching the surface. You really want to have a fun time, go look them up, go check them out. I hope this in some way could motivate you to play Pathfinder, but I probably know what this is going to do for most of you, which is homebrew them into D&D, which, fine, I'll probably do the same thing, but also, Pathfinder's a really fun game. Pathfinder is really cool. It's very well written. It has awesome spells and flavor abilities. I absolutely love it. Hope you guys are down to see more Pathfinder content here on the channel because I really like it, and I think more people should be playing it. Really gotta dilute all of the Pathfinder bros who constantly flood video comments being like, that's a Pathfinder, that's a Pathfinder, that's a Pathfinder. Basically, every D&D player should just be playing Pathfinder. That's basically just what it should be. That's the mentality, basically. Oh, honorable mention, final mention. D&D gets one thing over Pathfinder. And as a meme, Fireball in Pathfinder does 6d6 damage, while in D&D it does 8d6 because, you know, intentionally overpowered and all that. But I think it's really funny. It feels like a subtweet version of a spell to be like, our Fireball does the balanced damage D&D. And I kind of love that. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. See you guys next time. Bye.